Hey there, Yogi. This video is all about how to sit. Now, it might seem strange, but talking about how to sit is really, really important, especially in this foundations experience, because we're going to be sitting a lot. So, if you're sitting in a way that's a little awkward or that's not supporting your body, you're going to find that you'll begin to lose blood flow, you'll get really uncomfortable, and you may not be able to stay in through the whole practice. So, I want to take a moment to talk about how to sit and how to do so in a way that really supports your body so that you can access the practice and pay attention and get the material rather than fidgeting and waiting for the next thing to come. In this particular program, we're going to sit a lot, so this matters. And I want to give you a couple of different options for how you can sit in a way that will truly support your body. So for this video, if you could have two blankets and or towels, whatever your uh, soft support is. You could even have a bolster if that's something that's available to you. And you also want a chair nearby so that if it makes sense, we're also going to try the chair, and then you'll need two blocks. So when you've got it all ready, meet me on the mat and let's get started. So first we're going to talk about how to fold the blanket. I'm going to undo this blanket that does need to be refolded anyway, and then show you what I do to fold the blanket. I think it's really common and like you think, whatever, it's just a blanket, right? Put it down. But it actually does matter how it's folded because it will help you to understand the thicknesses that we're working with and also to make sure that you have a flat surface that is really supporting your body. So for me, I'm going to start with this blanket folded halfway. You can see the two edges of the fringe are folded and it's very even. So both ends are nice and even. And I do try to be meticulous about the corners being touching because it will matter. You'll feel it. So then you're going to bring the ends together, and this is pretty much just always folding the long version in half. So now I've got this long version, and we're going to fold it down in half. So flat edge meeting the fringe. So now we've got kind of a quarter size here. And this is usually where we start, especially when we're doing anything on our knees. You can see the width is about the same width as the mat, almost exactly. And if you wanted to, you could fold it again. And we're actually going to start with it in half, fold it again. So I'd call this an eighth. So we have our eighth fold on one blanket. We've got our eighth fold on a second blanket. So I'm going to start with two blankets because I think often if we start with one, we're like, nah, that's good enough. And I really, again, I'm going to say this a bunch of times, but we really want to be supportive. Okay. We do not need, of all the things to push with, sitting and like not having enough support does not need to be one of them. Okay. So come on down to the mat and you're going to put your seat, your bum, your sits bones. We'll talk about what all that means on the blanket. You can see I already crossed my ankles because this is just so habitual. I can't help myself. But if we were to start with the bum on the blanket and just take a moment to really like let the top of your femur bones, that's what we call the sits bones, rest on the blanket. You can kind of move the flesh out from underneath your bum, feel the support of those blankets underneath you, feel how elevated your hips are. You can even just have your hands and your knees and notice, right, the length of your spine and feel how elevated and supported you can be in this shape. I'm going to offer you is this one version. So every time that you see me in easy seat with my ankles crossed, as I habitually did when I first came down, this is an option if this is feeling better for your body. You can take your feet nice and wide here. You can even bring your elbows onto your knees and just let this be the shape that is comfortable for you as long as you can keep your spine elevated, maybe core engaged just a little bit to support your body and the trunk of your body in this position. This is perfectly fine. It's much easier on your hips. It's much easier on your knees. And if you have hips and knees stuff, this is a really great alternative. If this is still too much for you, then the next option will be the chair, and we'll do that later because I'll tell you, even if you are perfectly able to sit flat on the floor, no supports whatsoever, it's still really nice to have the chair sometimes because it just offers this other level of support for the body that like for me anyway, 15 years into my practice, I didn't even realize that I could have. So, if you are able to and it's comfortable for you, bend one knee and place the foot on the floor, and then bend the other knee. The feet go underneath your shins. So your shins are supported over your feet, and the feet are kind of using their width to hold up the shins. Now, if I walk my sits bones back a little bit more, I'm going to wiggle my hips. That's just what I tend to do when I sit down now, and really like feel into the seat, and then maybe lift up my shoulders, drop them down my back, and just notice, right? Notice here. So here, I feel very supported by my body. My hips are elevated. I feel very much supported for my level of flexibility that is today. And I'm telling you, flexibility may seem a little elusive because it can be, right? If we're really stressed, the body tends to be less flexible. If we are tired or strained, the body can be less flexible. The way in which it gets to be more flexible is by, being in this like more relaxed state of being, and that's why we're on the mat in the first place, right? So finding your comfortable seat, and again, so this is a check-in. This is two blankets. They're both the eighth way of folded, so they're pretty thick, and they're offering probably, I don't know, a few inches of support off the ground. If you have any sensation in your knees, and I mean anything in your hips or your knees, then what we want is to get you a bolster, right? Or something a little bit taller. You could potentially use blocks. I just feel like sometimes that can be a lot on the body. If this is not tall enough for you, you have a couple of options. If you have a towel available, then you can fold it, again, get it down to about this thickness and place it underneath the blanket so that it's kind of just stabilizing the base. I like the beach towel for this because they have less give, and they tend to be pretty strong at keeping their shape. Uh, if you have a yoga bolster, I'm just going to show you what that looks like in terms of thickness so that you can see the difference between the two. So here's our yoga bolster. You can see here it's probably got, oh gosh, a full hand height off the ground, versus these two blankets. It's almost twice the height of the blankets. So if you are needing some extra support for your hips, this is a great alternative. You can also have a version where you have blankets and the bolster. And I'm just going to give you a comparison. This is one blanket. It's a one blanket versus the bolster. You see, this is just a lot more height for your hips. And I'm going to give you now, so this is the two blankets. And again, you can see if three blankets would be about 3/4 of the bolster, four blankets would probably be about the same height. So I'm going to switch now to my bolster just to give you an example of what it looks like and how different it might seem in the body. So sitting down on the bolster, again, habitually, immediately crossing my ankles and landing in this shape. I'm going to walk my sits bones back, take a moment. So what I feel in this shape, and you can kind of close your eyes and notice what you feel in your shape. What I feel in this shape is more support and softness underneath my seat. So it's less, it's more of a give, right? It has more give than the blankets do. I also feel my hips up nice and high. I thought there was no pressure in my knees before. There is nothing. I feel like I'm floating on a cloud. It feels really, really, really nice. So from here, again, bolster is a great option, especially one that's a little firmer. You can also use a firm pillow, or a couch pillow tends to be a really nice option. You want something that is firm, that kind of has a wide base to it. You could probably use a meditation cushion sometimes, but I would say that can be a little destabilizing, and I would probably want a little bit more support for my body. If you find that your ankles are still a little like wanting a little bit of support, another option is to take a nice wide fold of your blanket, shimmy yourself over to the side, and then you can bring your ankles down on that blanket. I could be here all day. This feels amazing. It is very, very supportive for my body. I know that I can be here. And again, for this program, we're going to be in seats a lot. So you want to be supported and delicious and feel good. Because let's be real, This is the yoga, right? Like, yes, we bring ourselves into places of growth and transformation and discomfort, but we're intentional about that. We're not saying be uncomfortable just sitting on the ground. We want you to feel supported because when you are supported, then you can show up more and then you can really access the practice in a way that, lets you build more flexibility and strength and all that. So, this is another option for you in your seated options. So, the next option available is a chair. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you've heard of chair yoga before, you might think it's for people who are in their 80s and just, can barely move their bodies or whatever. But this is something that I really want to encourage you to consider. And I am saying this as a 30-something-year-old, very able-bodied, flexible, 15 years of experience yogi. So with all of that said, there are times when a chair makes a lot of sense for me. And if it's making a lot of sense for me in all of the ability that I have, then I really want you to consider that this is not a matter of ability. This is not a matter of, whether or not you can or cannot do something. This is not about an age thing. Like, I really want to just put all that out there because so often we have a lot of our clients that are, that have experienced bodies that have been around a while and that often are trying to force themselves to be at a level that they don't need to be at and do things that they don't need to do. There's no reason to force or harm your body in any way. And I'm telling you, what we want for you is to be able to focus and pay attention to your body. And it's just not possible to do that if your body is in strain. So I hope that I have at least scared you away from saying, that's not for me, because I can power yoga and do a headstand, and I'm still sitting in a chair saying, this is really delightful and a lovely experience. So, for a chair, there's a couple of things that you really want to pay attention to. One, your feet should be flat on the floor. You want to be, and I'm going to turn so you can see me on the other side. You want to be able to get your feet flat on the floor and you want to be able to sit forward on the chair. I am not leaning backwards. I am sitting forward just as I would be on the earth. In a way, on the chair, I am more engaged and present in my seat. Now, I'm going to turn to the side so that you can see me in the other direction. Because what I want you to notice is that there is another angle. So in this angle, you're going to see my leg height. Adjusting, adjusting. Here we go. Okay. So you can probably see here are my hips and here are my knees. And this is a slant. This is not straight. If my body were to be even, oh, there it is, right? You see it? Um, I want my hips and knees to be in line. And in order to do that here, I need to be up on my tippy toes. Not okay. Like this is not a supportive position. My body has to work too hard to be in the shape. So, option to use blocks underneath your feet. This was an eye opener for me. And I want to tell you that in my day to day life, when I sit in chairs for extended periods of time, I always have blocks underneath my feet now because it is a game changer for me. If you are somebody, again, I have a short stature and I tend to tuck my legs up, I tend to fold into seats because it hurts so much on my body for my knees to be constantly pulling away from my hips. But when I have my feet on blocks, my hips and knees just happen to be perfectly in line, and I never have any issues, right, with my knees being pulled. If this is too much height for you, but you still need a little elevation, here's another option. You can use a blanket. Now you can see here, I can almost my knees are closer, right? They're closer than when they're on the ground. There's less hang. It's also nice and soft. My feet feel very grounded. I can like spread out my toes and dig my feet in, and I feel really nice and comfortable with my feet here. Again, not enough height for me, but it could be for you. And if it is, it's a really great option. So once we have our foundation figured out, feet, knees, hips, let's move up the spine and also notice where we are on the seat. In a seat, you do want to be sitting at the edge. You do not want to be leaning against the back, right? Look at this position. Does this look like anything where I can engage my body or be able to, actually access the practice? No, I'm collapsed and I'm, sitting like I normally do at the end of the workday when I've just kind of had enough and I'm tired, but I'm trying to muscle through it. So instead, we're sitting up tall and we are edging, edging, edging. See the sits bones walking forward to the edge of the seat so that my sits bones are on the chair but I am nice and elevated and tall, spine, head, all of it. The structure of my body is in alignment, and we can talk more about that in the future. But for now, sitting towards the edge, hands can be on knees, hands can be on thighs, but you want to be able to have enough sitting forward that you have to use your core to stabilize and engage, just like we would be on the floor. In our first practice video, the entire practice is going to be in a seat. So with that, I'm going to bring myself back onto the earth and I'm going to give you the rest of the demo on sitting so that we can now talk about what comes next. So you can see that my chosen shape is the bolster and the blanket. Now, I didn't tell you that you needed a bolster for this program, and you really don't. But what I want for you is to find enough elevation that you feel really comfortable and supported. And if you're at home and you have the ability to practice on a carpet, then you already have a little bit of softness under your ankles anyway, hopefully. But really do get enough support so that you are able to engage, right? Engage. We're going to talk a lot more about the structure of the body and engaging muscles, but also elevate, lift up out of your seat. Uh, for any use of the chair, and I didn't say this when I was sitting in the chair, but I'm going to mention it now. Make sure it's on your mat. Make sure it's in a surface that is not going to slip. Make sure that you have feet that are not wheels. Make sure that you have enough grip on the bottom that it's not going to slide out from under you. So putting a chair on a carpet is a great option. Putting a chair with maybe taking off if you have like little things on the base of your chair that allow it to slide without scratching, maybe removing those if you're going to use it as your yoga chair. I love having a yoga chair, and I will promise you that chair yoga will come up and we'll be using chairs as props during this series. So just know you're going to need a yoga chair and that it's going to be great. So that was all about sitting, which seems like such a silly little thing. But again, right, as we build the support of the seat, it changes everything in the experience. And I really want you to come into this with a mind of support and comfort and care for your body. We cannot enter into a yoga practice if we are in conflict with the body, if we're fighting the body or pushing the body. The yoga won't come. The yoga comes from building this union, this connection, this awareness of the self. And know that some days you might need a little less support, and some days you might need a little more. And sometimes you just want more comfort. And sometimes you do want to push a little bit, right? All of these things, like we're human beings, we're different every single day. Your cells are constantly regenerating. I think, a different person every 3 days or something like that. It's like your cells are constantly regenerating. So, we're always shifting and changing, even if we like to think that everything is always the same. It's not real. Find your comfortable seat, get the props that you need. If there are things that you'd like to acquire or get for your practice, again, you can always reach out to us. We do have some in supply for local to us. And if not, we have some really great suppliers that we love to order all of our stuff from online. So I'm super excited. This next video is going to be all in a seat. So what you're going to do is grab the seat that's going to work best for you. No, you're not leaving that seat. So you better get the comfort and support you need as we build into 6 movements of the spine. Ooh. See you soon.